Now that our background is dry, let's go ahead and paint a cake. I'm gonna stick with my flat brush and I'm going to give it just a base layer of brown. Now I'm gonna darken this brown up quite a bit because this currently does not look like chocolate icing, and that is what I want on my cake, is some chocolate icing. So this right now just looks like brown. Looks like somebody made a cake out of a piece of wood and stained it. We're just gonna give it a base layer of brown. Make sure we stay right along those edges. We are gonna make this cake look like it has actual icing on it. First, we just need to give it a nice, solid, flat layer of brown. And then will come the fun. Great, so now I've got my black layer on, or my brown layer on there. Now I'm ready to add in my cake stand. So I'm gonna set this brush down. I like to use my round brushes when it comes to some of my detail work. I think of them almost like pencils or markers. So I'm gonna go in with my round brush and I'm gonna create a gray color. Now right here I've got about 50% white and 50% black. That is way too much black for what I need. So I'm actually just gonna take a couple of little hairs of black and mix that into my white. I'm looking for a nice light gray color. I don't want it to be too dark. And if you would prefer to have yours be a gold or maybe a cream color, you can mix any color you want. I do think I want it just a little bit darker than that, so I'm just going to take a hair more black, mix that in. Then I'm going to make my cake stand. We are going to add some highlights and some shadows on our cake stand, but we're going to start by just this medium gray color. So for my cake stand, I'm going to paint in just right there along that edge. And my cake stand is going to be a fancy cake stand. It's going to have some decorations on it. Your cake stand can be as simple or as elegant as you want it to be. You can go online and look at a couple of different cake stand pictures to get an idea. I'm just giving myself two little parentheses right here. They're going backwards. This is just the shape of my stand. And then at the bottom of my stand is going to have a small curve to it. Okay, and that small curve is just going to show that it has some dimension to it. And then just below that small curve, I'm going to create a round piece right here. It's a round piece. I don't know if you guys heard my dogs. I think one of my kids is awake. So my dogs just ran off to go say hi to them. I don't generally redo these videos when my dogs make noise because, just like you guys, I am on quarantine for the coronavirus and I do not have time to go to the art store every other day and buy new paints or new supplies. So I do not wish to waste them. So now that I've got my cake stand, I can decide if I want to add any kind of detail or maybe thicken up my base. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually add some bumps to the bottom of it. I'm just going to add a couple of bumps to the bottom. Even though I can't see them right here, I'm still going to add them because I want to be able to know where they are for when I add my shadows and my highlights. All right, let's talk about adding some detail to this cake stand. So with my brush, I'm going to wipe it off and I'm going to use just black. And I have just a little bit of black on here, but I'm going to go right up here at the top. I'm going to follow that little curved line and that base that I had with some small dots. And I'm going to pull that color down. This is going to help make it look like my shadow. So help make it look like my shadow. So now I can see where those lines were that I made by just making that light shadow. And if I just keep pulling it down, it'll lighten up as it goes down, which is what I'm looking for. Now at the base of my cake stand, I'm going to add a little bit of dark color around the bottom right edge. Just around the bottom right edge. I'm going to kind of smooth that out a little bit. This now tells me that I've got a highlight coming from the left-hand side of my painting, which means that the rest of my shadows are going to be over here on this side. My shadows, remember I didn't add any more paint to it. I was using the paint that was on my brush. I'm just going to make some curved lines that go along that cake stand, right on down to my dark shadow. A little bit more black paint, maybe just a little bit more. Now that I've got my dark shadow over there, I'm also going to add a little bit of dark to this right hand side over here, because remember I just created my highlight over there. So now I need to show that this is a darker area. So I'm just adding a very small amount of black, super small amount of black, and pulling it across. This is going to show that this is indeed a rounded form. Great. Now I'm going to wash my brush off because I'm going to add a white next. For my white, I'm going to put my white on this side. Okay, see, this is a shiny cake stand, so it can capture some of those highlights. And I'm going to put my white right here along this top edge. Kind of curve my white lines. Show a little bit of dimension there. And then I have to add my white up here, just like I did with the other side. I have to add my white over here. Again, this is just going to show that my cake stand, number one, it's a shiny surface. It can kind of collect some light. Number two, it's got some highlights to it. What a beautiful cake stand that is. Rinse my brush off. Now I'm going to add a little bit of shadow to my table. For that, I'm going to use my plain pink color, and I'm going to add just on this right hand side just a couple lines. I'm going to go really close to my cake stand and pull just a couple lines out. Just pull those lines out. Maybe kind of let them disappear off into the side. Now I am going to add some details to my background. I want some polka dots in my background. My favorite way of making polka dots is using my finger. So with white paint, I'm going to go in and I'm going to make some polka dots in my background. My polka dots are all going to try to be about the same size. This is one of those fancy schmancy cake shops. So they have lots of fun little details like polka dots everywhere. I'm not going to put any directly above my cake because I am going to be adding some flowers on my cake, and I want to make sure that I've got enough space for those. Great. Now let's start talking about designing our cake. So we do want to darken our cake up a little bit, and we also want to give it a little bit of texture. So with my paintbrush, my flat brush, I'm going to load it up with brown paint, and I'm going to grab just a little bit of black. And with that, just a little bit of black, I'm going to start over here on this side. So I do want to darken this cake up to have it be more of a decadent chocolate. Not so much the chocolate straight out of the jar, which I'm not gonna lie, that's how my cakes usually are when I make them. But I want to grab just a little bit of that black. Keep that black over here on my right-hand side because that is my shadow side. And then pull it over. Now I'm going to work on these two cakes separately so that they have a little bit of a different texture. So don't worry about the top cake yet. Right now we are only worried about this bottom cake. I like that color much, much, much more, that darker chocolate color. If maybe you're making a strawberry cake or a vanilla cake or a wedding cake, so your color might be a little bit different. If you're using white, you can use just a little bit of brown or a little bit of a dark pink to add to your shadow. All right, a little bit on this side. I'm going to use less black when I go to the left-hand side because although I still want it to be a nice dark chocolate cake, I do not want to look like there's a shadow on both sides. So I've got less black paint on my left. I'm going to pull that paint all the way across. What happens is you start to see that shadow on the right-hand side. We're going to do the exact same thing on our top cake. So, a lot of brown, a little bit of black, right here on this edge. We're going to pull that over. A lot of brown, a little black, right here on that edge. We're going to pull that over. I'm not going all the way across, just like I did on the bottom one. I'm going to stop about halfway across, and I'm going to add in my plain brown with just a little bit black, not even a whole lot, just a little bit. So we've got a lighter side over here. All right, my cake's looking good so far. It's about time to add some details to this cake. So I'm going to put roses on the top of my cake. You can choose whatever you want on the top of your cake. Maybe it's going to have a number on it for somebody's birthday. Maybe it's going to have a little arch and some people on it for a wedding. I really enjoy painting roses, and I do paint them with my finger. If you've ever painted with me before, you know that normally that's how I paint. I'm going to put 50% pink and red on my finger, and I'm going to make 3 roses. I'm going to put one right here. It's just going to be a gigantic circle. See how that looks? It looks like a great rose when you use your finger paint. So 50% pink, 50% red. I'm going to make my second one be just a little bit lower, and it's okay if it mixes into that brown a little bit. I'm going to wipe my finger off, and I'm going to do it one more time. This one's going to be a little bit smaller, and it's going to sit right here in the center. Now, since I've got these 3 great roses on there, I am actually going to go ahead and put 2 more roses right here, but they're going to be much smaller. So I'm going to take my finger with my 2 colors of paint on it. I'm going to put one right here. I'm going to put one a little bit bigger one right next to it. Perfect. All right, let me wipe my finger off and we'll move on to the next step. So now that I have my roses on here, I'm going to use my medium round brush, and I'm going to add in some white. So to make my white, I'm just going to do a circle spiral, but it's not going to take all the way. There's going to be parts where you don't see any white at all, and there's going to be parts where you see a lot of white. So I'm just going to take my paintbrush and I'm going to make a circle spiral all the way around. Circle spiral all the way around. I'm also going to take a small amount of yellow and do the same thing. I want a little bit of You know how you see those flowers that are so pretty at the store and they've got the red with that just little bit of yellow on them? If you are noticing you're getting orange, it's probably because you're mixing. Remember, all I'm doing is one circle all the way around. If I notice that this flower right here only has a little bit of yellow, I can add some up there, but I don't want to continue to mix. So now I'm going to make my leaves. And with my leaves, I'm going to use dark green. I'm going to find spots like right here where there's a large open space that I know I can fill in. So I'm going to take, and to make my leaves, all I do is I make a curved line one direction, and then a curved line the other direction. Now, after I have my leaves done, I definitely want to add some highlight to it. So I'm going to take some yellow, and on one side of my leaf, I'm just going to lay a line of yellow down. I'm going to run over that a couple times until it lightens up just a little. I don't want to mix it all the way. I don't want to lose that dark green or that yellow. But I can stick these leaves just about anywhere I want. I don't have to keep them in groups of two. I can do a group of 3 or just a single leaf. I generally like to do groups of 2 or 3. I think they're more interesting, and sometimes I feel like those single leaves just kind of look like they were accidentally placed there. So after I have that set of leaves done, I'm going to go in with my yellow. I'm going to add just my highlight. And down here, I'm going to add a couple. Now, this is a great thing. If you don't love your cake plate, make it go over your cake plate. Nobody will ever know. I actually do like my cake plate, so I'm going to put mine right here. I'm going to do 2 right there. I think I'll do 3 there. A little bit of yellow. Now I'm going to add a couple of highlights to my cake area. Same brush, I'm going to take a little bit of brown and a little bit of white, and I did wipe the brush off. I want to come up with a slightly lighter brown than the plain brown. So I'm not going hugely light, but a little bit. Up here on the top, I'm going to make just a little couple lines of light brown. It's going to go about halfway across, right here at the top of my cake. Okay, I can add a little bit up here on the side, pull that around. Now, if there's any other details you want to add to your cake, maybe you want to add some polka dots, or maybe you want to add some more flowers. Maybe you want to add some words. This is your time to do it. But when you're finished, you are simply going to sign it and post a picture for me. Remember, guys, I'm doing these classes while we are on the coronavirus quarantine. So these are meant to keep you entertained at home, creating at home, and having fun at home. Stay home and stay healthy. Have a great day, guys.